Fellas, AC here. Welcome to another video. Now the decade is coming to an end and I thought I'll summarize the trends I've observed in the perfumery industry in the last decade. I think this is going to be an interesting topic and I want your views as well. I've compiled 6 major trends. There could be more and I would love to learn from you, but here are the 6 that I think were the major trends I've observed in the last decade. And some of them will carry over. Most of them will carry over. So let's start with number 1. Attack of the clones. Now, cloning a fragrance, whether it's right or wrong, is a different question. But this is now an industry. Yeah, there are many houses which have come up with the whole idea of cloning fragrances and selling them for cheap. And mostly they do clone very expensive, hard to come by or extinct fragrances. The 2 big houses that have caused a huge stir in the community are Dua and Alexandria fragrances. I've reviewed some of the Alexandria fragrances and some Dua. And I think this trend, which was established very strongly in the last decade, is going to carry on. And you will see from the other trends that there's a reason for this. There's a market for this. And there's an ethical question, obviously, that somebody has labored so hard to produce a fragrance, and here comes a guy with a spectrometer, gets a signature of the compounds used and produces a copy and sells it. Yes, but then that sort of thing has always existed, and I don't want to go into the moral question because that's a separate debate. But yes, that is a solid trend which was, seen in the last decade, and it'll continue. And there are many other clone houses as well. So, number 2 trend, overpriced niche, my favorite topic. I'm a lover of luxury fragrances. I absolutely adore opulent, rich, nice, complex fragrances. But then when I see fragrances which should be in a designer bottle being sold as a niche fragrance, my blood boils. Because of 2 reasons. A, these houses are taking us for a ride. Yeah. Number 2, they should not be charging so much money, right? And yet it happens a lot. It started happening in the last decade and it will continue to happen. Now I'll give you some examples. My favorite from this house is Parfums de Marly, this category. Parfums de Marly fragrances. I've sampled quite a few of them. I think they're good fragrances, but they're not worth the price they're charging. Yeah. A Parfums de Marly 125 ml will set you back between 150 and 200 pounds, sometimes even 250. But you smell the fragrances and they'll remind you of many designer fragrances. Even the evolution, the quality of materials used, they're all in the designer category. High-end designer max. Yeah, they're not better in quality than a Chanel or a Dior. But they charge you at least twice as much as they should. That's what I think. So Parfums de Marly was created in 2009. Yeah. Zerjoff I couldn't find. Initio 2015. Kilian 2007. These are the 4 houses I think are consistently overcharging. Yeah. Their fragrances are so-called niche. They're not niche. Yeah. Niche fragrances have to be complex. They're not complex. They smell like high-end designer fragrances and they consistently charge you more. I mean, a full presentation Kilian 50 ml can cost you 250 bucks. That's 5 pounds an ml. No way does any of the Kilians that I've tested smells like 5 pounds an ml. You can go for the refill bottles. They charge you, I think, 125 to 150 pounds for a 50 ml. It's still expensive, but palatable. And this is the whole reason we have this cottage industry of clones, because there are smart people around who have observed this and said, hey, listen, if Herod is being sold for 150, I can make a copy of Herod and I can sell it for 50. So there's a whole reason the clone houses have come up in such a big way, because there's this overpricing of very ordinary scents, very good smelling, but very ordinary fragrances happening. And that's a trend which leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. Because as I said, I like complex fragrances and I like to pay big bucks for complex fragrances, niche quality fragrances. No problems with that. But what I don't like is, paying big bucks for a very simple fragrance, right? So And once again, I'm not beating down on the brand. I'm not saying that these brands are bad. I'm saying these brands should be looking at their price points more realistically. Xerjoff, I've tried 3 Xerjoffs, okay? I've tried Naxos, Neo, Renaissance, and Zafiro. The only one I would pay the big bucks that Xerjoff asks is Zafiro. Because Naxos reminds me of Pure Havane, Neo reminds me of Artisan Pure, and Renaissance, I can't remember what it reminded me of, but it does remind me of something. So why would I want to pay such huge amounts of money that Xerjoff charges for something that I've already smelled before? Naxos is the biggest example. And you can argue, oh, it's a bigger, better quality. Yes, okay. But what about the lingering memory of extremely cheap fragrance in my head? So that's the thing. That's the thing I want to put forward. Obviously, there will be counterpoints, and I quite welcome and respect your counterpoints. But I've seen this as a trend. The third trend is my favorite trend because I like value for money, and it is the rise of the Middle Eastern perfumery. Now, this decade, this decade which is just finishing, is the decade which will be remembered for putting brands like Rasasi, Armaf, Al Haramain, Ard al Zafran, many other brands into the mainstream, European, American, North American. The whole world now knows these brands. These brands give you fabulous fragrances for very little money. And that's again, when you smell a fantastic Rasasi, and then you smell a Parfums de Mali, and you think to yourself, Jesus, I'm smelling a fabulous fragrance here for which I paid 20 bucks. And this fragrance, which smells like a designer, is costing me 250 bucks. Really? That's it. That's the emotion I carry when I smell a fantastically made Middle Eastern fragrances. And last decade was basically a purple patch for these brands, especially Rasasi. You know how much I love Rasasi because I get tremendous value for money out of a Rasasi. Same thing with Armaf. Armaf is really coming up a big way, and they're making some amazing fragrances. And as you know, fragrances, I don't mind fragrances being sold at a premium. But if that premium is so obnoxiously high, I have a problem. And when I smell a Rasasi, it tells me, you can actually make very nice fragrances that doesn't cost you a lot of money, right? So this was the third trend I've observed. I'm very happy about it. Middle Eastern perfumery is keeping everybody honest. And I tell you, some guys in these big brands that overcharge are getting sleepless nights because of these Middle Eastern brands. Amazing brands. Number 4, this is an interesting one. Poacher turned Gamekeeper. Now, I have named it negatively, but it's actually a very positive trend. You will see more and more reviewers turn into brands. Jeremy started it, and if like it or loathe it, Jeremy is a true pioneer when it comes to the perfumery game, if you like. Yeah, he started a trend. He started a trend of doing reviews in a certain style, and that's why he's going to be very soon going to be a person who will have 1 million subscribers just by doing fragrance reviews. He started a brand. He created an internet brand. And, that's caught on now. So many people have followed and got onto that bandwagon. And it's a good one. I like it. So the ones that we are talking about, one is Gravitas, which I have a lot of respect for, by Mr. Smelly. Then there's Navitus, which was done by Radolescence. I haven't smelled any of the Navitus. I'd love to. And I won't be surprised if more and more fragrance reviewers start fronting a brand. They're not necessarily perfumers. None of them are perfumers, but they are the face of the brand. And that's what I like. I quite like that they have graduated to another stage. And Jeremy is responsible for that. So full kudos to Jeremy. But this is a trend I think which will catch on. More and more reviewers will become perfumers or start fronting a perfume brand. Next, number 5 is, this is a sad one, major reformulations. 2013 was a very bad year for a lot of fragrances because IFRA regulations kicked in, and as a result of those IFRA regulations, a lot of fragrances were reformulated, lots and lots of them. And there's another one coming up. In 2020, there'll be another major, tranche of reformulations. A lot of materials are being sort of banned by IFRA. Now, the problem I have with this is that IFRA is a body which regulates everything to do with cosmetics. So IFRA regulates your toothpaste, your shower gel, your deodorant, and your fragrances. Now, if you apply the same rule to fragrances which are premium luxury products, I think there's a problem here. Why? Because, when you go and buy, let's say you go and buy a sports car, it does not come with a statutory warning that this car can exceed 155 miles an hour. Hence, if you drive at 155, two things are going to happen. A, you will lose your license. B, you will end up having a crash. Yeah? It doesn't. But with perfumery, they expect that, IFRA expects that everybody who ever sprays it on their skin should be safe. Now, we know that there are a lot of people who have allergies to a lot of stuff. And what IFRA is trying to do is trying to create the same regulation that governs a toothpaste or a shower gel into a fragrance. And that is the whole reason we've had so many reformulations. I mean, real classics like Mitsuku, it was reformulated. I'm not saying it smells bad or whatever. I'm not saying that. That's a different debate. But what it's doing is it's really disrupting the niche perfumery or luxurious perfumery industry, and it's going to carry on. There are many more reformulations that are going to happen in the next decade, especially in 2020. So I think this was a trend which I saw. It affected a lot of brands. Longevity of a lot of fragrances were reduced. La Nuit de l'Homme is one. I do not know whether that was a result of IFRA or just YSL's greed. I do not know. But it's happened, it'll happen. It's a trend which will carry on for sure. And it's a sad trend. Last one. And this is a good one because I want to leave you with a silver lining. We've talked about niche brands, some niche brands which charge you too much. We've talked about clone houses, but here is the silver lining. Rise of indie perfumery. I've seen in the last decade, and I've reviewed some of them, the rise of houses, fragrance houses, solely dedicated to creating very, very good fragrances. Complex, depth, quality, whatever, transformations. That's exactly what you want when you want to pay big bucks. When I pay £3 an ml, £5 an ml, I want something amazing, not just something that smells like a designer. And these indie houses are doing exactly that. Some of the houses which have really caught my attention are Nicolai Parfumer, based out of Paris. Fantastic quality. She is related to the Guerlain family. The other one is Francesca Bianchi. Her creations, not all of them, some of them are amazing. Similarly, I reviewed one today, Offery. What a brand it is. I'm going to get more into that brand. So these brands, they are just, run out of a garage or one room, bedroom flat or whatever. And these guys are dedicated perfumers who are trying to give you the real art in a bottle. And that trend is something that should really, really be encouraged, because that's where you will get maximum satisfaction. You want to smell something unique, something complex, something high quality, something that really, captures your imagination. Indie is the way to go. And I'll be reviewing more and more of that stuff in the coming year. So those are the 6 trends, major trends I observed when I studied the whole last decade. And I'd love to know more from you. If you think there's a trend that I've missed, please make sure you put that in the comment. But hope you enjoy this video. Hope you've learned something and it's given you a new perspective. Take care. Bye-bye.